My name's Antonio, I'm the owner of P1 Exotics, and today I'm driving with Evan. We're talking 10 reasons why you should own a Ferrari Testarossa in 2022. So we'll start in order, 10 being a good reason, but down to number 1, the best reason. Number 10, I'll start with a little story. We'll go with the name. So, little story behind the name. This is the Ferrari Testarossa. The previous model was the 512 BB. And with the 512 BB, what's really funny, this car replaced that car. There's a little funny story. So, the BB was supposed to stand for berlinetta boxer. And ironically, it's neither of those two. Berlinetta normally would be a smaller sports coupe with a front engine. That had a mid-engine. And Boxers normally is a specific firing order with your flat engine, similar to like a Porsche. This car, as well as the 512 BB, did not have the Boxer firing order. So deep down, there's a rumor, and what we know, and many people approve, is that actually it stood for Brigitte Bardot. If you guys know Italians, I'm not one, but honestly, if I had to pick another nationality, I'd love to be an Italian. They're pretty passionate people, and not surprisingly, they named a car secretly after the world's first supermodel, pretty much. Pretty awesome. So fast forward to the replacement. The Testarossa, also sporting a 5-liter 12-cylinder engine. This car paid homage to a car from the late 50s and 60s, the 250 Testarossa. Testarossa meaning red head. 2 separate words implying referencing the red painted valve covers that were on the race car. But just like our favorite Italian designers and mechanics, with this one they took the word and put it into one, Testarossa, as a little tongue-in-cheek nod towards a red-headed woman. The 250 Testarossa won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1958, 1960, and 1961, if I remember correctly. You can fact-check me on that one. It also won 58, 59, and 61 12 Hours of Sebring, and it also won the World Sports Car Constructors Championship 58, 60, and 61. So the 250 Testarossa was a legendary race car, and this is rooted in that. Number 8, drivability. This car is so drivable. The only negative I would say is that it doesn't have power steering, but aside from that, it's completely comfortable. So many people might think of this car as a supercar. It was one of the fastest production cars in the world at the time. It truly, deep down, is the ultimate driver's car. It's more of a GT car than you'd think. Sure, it's mid-engine, but back then, supercars were completely not daily drivable. I mean, 0 storage capacity. The 512 BBI, literally the trunk would get hot, and that your chocolates or your eggs would cook themselves, it would melt. I mean, it was just so not usable. So, the design task with this car was to be drivable. This car is totally a driver's car. The suspension is very soft. Even though it's a powerful car, it's a fast car, it's a very soft suspension. It's a driver's car. An engine out servicing at the start, and yes, that was very expensive, as everyone knows. But after doing that full major service, this car has been a joy to drive, completely reliable. Into number 6, which is owning a vintage car has a totally different connotation. It has a different, I don't know what to say about it. But when you pull up with an old car to a meet, or an old car to a restaurant on a special occasion, whenever, the older cars have a much different aura to them. Older cars, because it just is so much more approachable, and it's kind of, I don't know. You're just a real enthusiast, in my opinion. Cue the video from Gone in 60 Seconds. You know what I mean? When he's like, you wouldn't just be another one of those wieners. You know? No, I mean, the new cars are really, really awesome too. But there's something special about having an older car. One of my favorites. Let's talk about investment potential, and let's talk about the Lamborghini Countach. So, what I love about this car is, unlike all these newer Ferraris, they hide the production numbers. You see them all over the place. They're making 20 or 30,000 of them in their production runs. They only made 7,000 of this. Now that's a lot more than a Countach, and that's a lot more than you normally want with an investment car. But still, it's much, much more rare, and it's actually harder to find investment-grade versions of these cars. So, I like this car for its investment. Lamborghini Countach. Sure, they only made 1,980 of them. So understandably, and the Countach is a little bit more radical, it is a little bit more iconic of a car, but they're always side-by-side comparisons. And the Testarossa is the Countach equivalent for Ferrari at the time. And the Countach market has been skyrocketing lately. I see a lot of potential in these cars. I don't know if they're ever going to be as much as a Countach, I don't think so, but I do know this. The Countaches are now starting to hit over $1 million. Not just the Periscope, but some of the other designs are starting to hit over $1 million at this point. And if those could go for that kind of money, a Ferrari Testarossa being the Ferrari equivalent icon design, I think will certainly at the very least hold its value, if not continue to appreciate into the future. And I would have to say, it's got to be the sound. Now this car actually, believe it or not, was ridiculously quiet from factory. I'm not really sure why. My guess is probably due to regulations at the time. You know, 355 with a Capristo exhaust. This has got an extra 4 cylinders, so I don't know. We'll have to compare. All that with the engine, you also get a gated dog-leg 5-speed manual transmission. How freaking cool is that? We drive a lot of the new stuff in our inventory, but honestly, I find myself at the end of the day, if I'm moving a lot of inventory around, I just want to get into a manual transmission car, and this, every single one of them has it. Gotta love it. We are down to the top 2 reasons to own a Ferrari Testarossa in 2022. Number 2 would be the engine. It's a 5-liter flat 12 engine. I mean, they stopped making those after this. The only cars that have them in the rear as a mid-engine car are the Halo cars, the Enzo, the F50, etc. It's a pretty iconic engine, you know, rooted in a lot of history, and it's also, let's face it, the last mid-engine V12 that Ferrari, Enzo Ferrari had put his hands on. And now we're down to number 1, my favorite reason to own a Testarossa. The design, baby. Pininfarina-designed. You got the crazy striking cheese graters. You got the stunning rear end. The black lines going across the entire rear. The pop-up headlights. The interior is also really, really cool. We don't talk about that enough. A Momo Racing steering wheel, no airbag. I mean, it's a very simple interior, but it's just cool. The buttons down here, you can see they're straight out of the 80s. It's just cool all around. You drive up with this thing, everyone's turning their heads. Honestly, even more so than some of the newer Ferraris. It's just that cool. It's just as cool in a way today as it was back then. Now it's this retro cool. But all right, guys, and that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you, Evan, for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
What's that?
I said my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully we'll do more of these. Stay tuned. What else do I say?
That's it. All right, you're good, man.
See you guys.